What kind of monster throws out a baby's oxygen tank just to keep the neighborhood pretty? That question seared my brain as I cradled my 9-month-old daughter, Emma, her tiny chest heaving, lips tinting blue, while paramedics swarmed our levying room, sirens wailing outside. Every second of this nightmare, every heart-stopping moment was because of one woman, Carol Bennett, the HOA president with a clipboard of made-up rules and a vendetta against anything that didn't fit her vision of suburban perfection. She thought she was untouchable, but she had no idea she just crossed a state health inspector. I wasn't just Emma's dad. I was the guy who'd make her regret ever stepping onto my porch. It all started that morning, under a clear sky with a crisp breeze perfect for setting up Emma's portable oxygen unit on the porch, while HVAC repairs shut down her main system for a few hours. The porch was safe, shaded, and close to the backup tank I'd secured in a labeled case. Medical use only. Do not touch. I slapped a biohazard sticker on it for good measure. Emma napped inside, her monitor glowing green, steady as a heartbeat. Then I saw Carol, prowling the street like a prison guard in her tacky floral VY sore and oversized shades, gripping her clipboard like it gave her DVY any authority. She stopped at my porch, staring at the tank like it had personally offended her. I stepped out, forcing a smile. Morning, Carol. It's just Emma's backup oxygen for the repairs. It's temporary. Her lips pursed, thin as a razor. It's VY Cybele from the street. Unapproved. I kept my cool. It's only for a few hours. Emma needs it to breathe. She scribbled something, her pen scratching like nails on a chalkboard. Violates VY soul harmony. Consider this a verbal warning. My fists clenched, but I stayed calm. Carol, this is for my medically fragile daughter. She snapped. I don't need a lecture from someone cluttering my neighborhood with hazardous junk. And stormed off. I was stunned, but I shook it off. I had to pick up Emma's prescription. The tank was locked, the house secure, my wife, Sarah, stuck at the hospital on a late shift. I kissed Emma's forehead, checked the monitor, and left. 25 minutes. That's all it took for my world to collapse. I came back to an empty porch. The tank was no accident, just vanished. My stomach dropped like I'd been punched. I rewound the porch camera, and there she was, Carol, gloved hands wrestling the tank, muttering, "This eyesore's got to go." She dragged it to the street, and my blood turned to ice. I sprinted to the HOA dumpster. There it was, tipped over, crushed, its warning labels screaming in the sunlight. Then the baby monitor wailed long, piercing beeps, red lights flashing. I bolted inside, scooped Emma up, her breath shallow, her lips fading to blue. My hand shook as I dialed 911, choking out. My daughter can't breathe. Her oxygen tank was stolen. Paramedics arrived in minutes, fitting a mask on Emma as I rode with her to the ER, gripping her tiny hand, watching color creep back into her face. She stabilized, thank God, but I didn't. That night, Carol's smug face looped in my mind, her house glowing across the street, TV flickering like she was proud of her little VY Tory. I stood on my porch, the dumpster glinting under a street lamp, my rage barely contained. Then I remembered who I was, a health inspector who'd taken down corrupt clinics and fined shady CEOs. Carol had turned her power trip into a felony. She'd tampered with a child's life SAVYing equipment. On camera. Tomorrow, I'd unleash hell. Morning broke, deceptively calm. Emma napped upstairs, her oxygen steady. I sat at my laptop, compiling EVY Denke with the precision of a surgeon, footage, screenshots, state health codes. Years of busting violations had sharpened my instincts, and now I was targeting the queen of the cul-de-sac. First, I checked the HOA's website, a shoddy mess with a 2000 stock photo and a PDF of standards. It was a disaster, font changes, pages on mailbox colors, nothing about medical equipment. Carol had either made up a rule or twisted a vague one. The Fair Housing Act and ADA were crystal clear. Tossing medical gear was a legal landmine. I called the ADA Compliance Board and a HUD contact, filing complaints as a state official, not just a furious dad. Within hours, 2 investigations opened, but I needed more. I canvassed neighbors subtly, catching them at mailboxes or on dog walks, sharing Emma's story. The floodgates burst. An elderly couple had been fined for a rustic bench. A mom wept, saying Carol had removed her autistic son's sensory table for being messy. A veteran got cited for too many flags on Veterans Day. Each story carried the same fear, the same defeat. Carol retaliated with fines, liens, or shaming emails. One hit hard. Rosa, whose husband died of lung cancer, showed me a photo of their oxygen tank with Carol's note. "This isn't a hospital. Keep it tidy." The pain in her eyes said it all. I logged 20 witness statements, building a dossier of Carol's tyranny. Next, I dug into the HOA board. A formal records request revealed only 2 of 5 members were legitimate. The rest were Carol's cronies or no-shows. Then I found her smoking gun, a rule. Emergency storage ban. Banning VY-Cybal medical equipment. It wasn't in the bylaws. The PDF's metadata showed Carol created it on her personal computer. No vote, no minutes, pure fraud. She'd fabricated policy to target what annoyed her. Now I had her for endangering Emma and falsifying documents, a criminal offense. To seal it, I set a trap with a neighbor, Mr. Evans, a retired engineer whose wife used a CPAP. He placed a marked oxygen tank on his patio, and we hid a camera. 2 days later, Carol struck, dragging the tank to the curb, muttering, "This isn't a clinic. Only people who belong here." The footage was Gold Exhibit C in my case. I called an informal resident meeting, framing it as an HOA abuse discussion. 22 neighbors showed up in Evan's backyard, their anger electric. They weren't just homeowners, they were a rebellion. Carol thought she ruled unchallenged, but I'd summoned the cavalry. The inspection day hit like a thunderclap. I timed complaints to state agencies to avoid cover-ups. By 10 a.m., 3 agency vans rolled in, inspectors stepping out with clipboards. I watched from the sidewalk as they hit the HOA's clubhouse, where Carol once banned oversized flags. She stormed up in neon green sandals, arms flailing, voice shrill, demanding answers. The inspectors flashed documents and entered. Carol froze, then glared at me, realizing I'd orchestrated this. I waved, sipping coffee. They found no accessible clubhouse entry, a non-compliant ramp, and 0 ADA accommodations. Carol paced her lawn, phone calls unanswered, her allies ghosting her. A local reporter, tipped off, called for my statement. I sent her the footage, documents, and Emma's story. Her article, "HOA tosses baby's oxygen, faces state wrath," was brewing. That evening, residents demanded an emergency board meeting. I spoke, showing Carol's footage, playing her "Belong Here" audio, detailing her fake rules and ADA violations. Gasps echoed. Carol barged in, shouting I was a liar, but a neighbor roared, "You threw out a baby's oxygen! Sit down!" The crowd turned. The board voted to suspend her, one abstaining. She stood, seething, as her power crumbled. The next day, Carol filed a restraining order, claiming I'd harassed and slandered her. In court, she ranted about her Sir VYC, while I presented Emma's equipment photo, the footage, and her forged rules metadata. I read her text to a neighbor. "Baby or dog, they're cluttering my street." The judge dismissed her claim, warning her against legal abuse. She hissed, "This isn't over." But it was. The state was circling, and the neighborhood was awake. A week later, the Attorney General's office opened a state investigation into CIVYL rights violations, fraud, and HOA misconduct. I sued the HOA and Carol for ADA violations, negligence, and emotional distress. Their lawyer offered a settlement cash, confidentiality. I demanded a public apology from Carol at an HOA meeting. She refused, her ego unyielding. The lawsuit became a spectacle. The reporter's story went viral, sparking regional news and advocacy groups' support. Carol's allies vanished. Neighbors shunned her. Leaked HOA emails showed board members blaming her. One quit, citing moral disgust. Legal fees spiked HOA premiums, infuriating residents who faced assessments for Carol's mess. In court, I stood with Sarah, Emma in my arms, her tiny mask and beanie a silent testament. Carol sat pale, avoiding our gaze. Her lawyer called it a misstep. I told the judge about Emma's condition, the terror of finding her tank gone, stolen by a neighbor who valued aesthetics over life. I showed the footage, read the metadata, played Carol's audio. The room stilled. Carol declined to speak. The jury deliberated 45 minutes, awarding Dulaw $1.2 million, half from the HOA, half from Carol. She was barred from HOA roles statewide. Outside, cameras swarmed, but I just kissed Emma and whispered, "We won, baby." Carol's empty stare as the verdict hit wasn't triumph, it was justice. A year later, the neighborhood looked the same but felt reborn. Carol was gone, her house sold quietly to a young family. The HOA was overhauled with real elections, transparent rules, and ADA compliance. Residents spoke freely, helped each other, attended meetings. Emma's health improved. She ran, laughed, played doctor with her toy stethoscope. We hosted a barbecue, the cul-de-sac alive with joy, no clipboard looming. A letter arrived from a stranger, Claire, whose wheelchair-bound son got a ramp after our case inspired her fight. Her photos showed him beaming. I wasn't a hero, just a dad who wanted Emma to breathe. But that fight rippled, exposing Carol's cruelty and sparking change. I walk past that curb sometimes, remembering my helpless rage. Now I see a community that stands together, a girl who sings to birds, and a silence where fear once ruled. Carol thought a tank was clutter. She didn't know it was my daughter's breath. And for that, she lost everything, not by vengeance, but by truth.